and across the board. It is always good to have you join us right from now all the way to 9 a.m. We will be doing what we do best, and we'd love to be you to be part and parcel of this conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47. We have a show that is lined up with, for you with great stuff. So much of analysis that will be focused on these particular issues that we'll have picked on. So make sure that you keep it right here. So to kickstart the session, it is important that we take a look at what my team has prepared, and it's exactly on matters, news. There's so much that is happening. We start off with matters education, and of course we also do not forget the beat of sports that happened yesterday. Harambee Stars versus Comoros. I personally watched that match. Well, pretty much impressive, but all the same here, it was a tie. So we'll be discussing that also as we proceed with the show. We'll be taking a look at that particular news now. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has ordered the Kenya Medical and Supplies Authority, KEMSA, to release PPEs and face masks to counties at the current market price. Kagwe says that in as much as KEMSA will feel like it will make losses, such is the scenario across different parts, because most of the sectors are equally facing the loss courtesy of COVID-19. Let's take a look at that.
Honorable Koros is one thing before I hand it over to Daniel Yumbia.
While giving a status report before Senate's Health Committee, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has ordered the Kenya Medical and Supplies Authority, KEMSA, to release PPEs and face masks to counties at the current market price. According to Kagwe, even though KEMSA will face huge losses in the process, the Medical and Supplies Authority will not be unique, as most sectors in government continue to face huge losses 8 months into the COVID-19 pandemic.
There has been a lot of fear within KEMSA that whatever decision they take, if they take the decision to dispose these masks and PPEs to the counties at a less price that they bought it as, that eventually there will be audit queries that you'll then bring them here to answer the questions. But we have made it clear, Madam Chair, in the discussions with this committee in the past, that there is not a single institution that is not going to take some sort of hit, economic hit in the country.
The CS further says the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, will not be able to cover COVID-19 patients in both public and private hospitals. Kagwe insists the cost of COVID-19 tests and treatment is too high, making it financially impossible for the government to cover the millions of Kenyans under the insurance fund. This is as the number of COVID-19 infections in the country rises to 65,804 cases after 1,216 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. 531 people have recovered as 26 more people succumbed to the virus. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Well, still on matters health, and Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has casted doubt on the effectiveness of the newly speculated vaccine, a COVID-19 vaccine developed by American pharmaceutical giants Pfizer and their German partners BioNTech in the war against the COVID-19 pandemic. Appearing before the Senate Health Committee on Wednesday, Kagwe has said treatment on COVID-19 should be prioritized over prevention if the COVID-19 war is to be won. David Muthoka reports.
Barely 2 days after American pharmaceutical giants Pfizer and their German partners BioNTech SE announced that their vaccine, dubbed Pfizer vaccine, was 90% effective in preventing COVID-19, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has poked holes at the vaccine, saying he is yet to understand how it works.
To respond, but I think I just want to make two things clear.
Appearing before the Senate Health Committee, led by Murang'a woman Representative Sabina Chege on Wednesday, Kagwe has reiterated that if the COVID-19 war is to be ultimately won, treatment ought to precede prevention, adding that he cannot understand how one will be injected with a disease to keep the virus at bay.
My issue is, I am told that this vaccine is supposed to stop you. It's supposed to stop you from getting the virus. They have tested, I don't know how many people, and they have stopped them from getting the virus. I know of somebody who shares a bedroom with somebody who is positive and the person doesn't have the virus.
Should the Pfizer vaccine be given a green light by the World Health Organization (WHO) for global distribution, people aged between 16 and 85 years will be viable for immunization, with its cost set to be 300 Kenyan shillings per dose. Scientists have termed the Pfizer vaccine as a critical milestone in the vaccine development program at a time when the world needs it most, with infection rates setting new records, hospitals nearing overcapacity, and economies struggling to reopen. Over 51 million people worldwide have contracted COVID-19, while 1.27 million others have succumbed to the virus 11 months since the novel coronavirus first struck in Wuhan, China. David Muthoka, TV47, Nairobi.
And education stakeholders are set to meet Monday next week to deliberate on the school calendar and the recovery of the lost year. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education is blaming parents for the continued spread of COVID-19 in schools.
Education stakeholders are set to meet on Monday next week to deliberate on the school's calendar ahead of the projected schools reopening in January.
I have called for a meeting of stakeholders for Monday of next week, where we shall affirm exactly now that we know how dangerous the virus is, even though we are not following it, because I can see in Machakos the compliance rate is very low. You are mnajikombatiana tu. But so there we shall decide on the timetable for the exams, and then the roadwork towards the end of next year.
Education CS George Magoha says there is no going back in the programmed school reopening in January next year. Speaking at Chemutheke Primary School in Machakos County, where he was supervising the ongoing school desks program, Magoha said that the government was very keen on ensuring all learners resume learning after nearly a year break occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic.
Because as you are aware, our children will come back to school in January of next year. And when they come back, they need to have a timetable.
Meanwhile, Education PS Belio Kipsang is accusing parents of aiding the spread of COVID-19 in schools.
Where we have so huge numbers of people out there participating in political gatherings in the most indisciplined way, where you see most of them are not in any preventive ways, in masks or anything else, get the disease out there and bring it to our children in their homes. And our children innocently take it to school, and those who are in school take it to innocent parents out there.
The PS was appearing before the Senate Committee on Health.
Still on matters education, the director of the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is opposed to the idea of scrapping off some topics in the syllabus in a bid to save time lost in the 2020 school calendar. According to him, if this is effected, then it will water down the quality of education in the country. Our Education Affairs reporter Sharon Baranga met him and filed this report.
In recent days, there has been a debate on how best to save the 2020 school calendar in such a way that learners who are still at home will be in a position to proceed to the next class. This was after a number of them panicked, feeling they will be forced to repeat a class. Some stakeholders in the education sector proposed reduction of some content in the subjects to focus on key topics, which will pave way to compressing of the content learners ought to be taught. But the director of the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Professor Charles Ogondo, is not in support of the...
When we develop curricula, as you say, you set topics, subtopics, and sometimes you have what we call a sub-subtopics of what learners would learn over the curriculum period. For example, in the current system, 8 years of primary, 4 years of secondary. In the new system, 6 years of primary, 3 years of junior secondary, 3 years of senior secondary. Now, when you do that, then the most important point is to decide which topics are prerequisite. What is it that learners need to learn before they learn further topics, So it is not a very easy decision to decide that you combine topics or subtopics.
Ogondo says consolidating of Term 1 and 2 work for the next class and transition all learners will also affect the quality of education.
We can save time, but we shall be detrimental to the child, because then they will not have given them the prerequisites that they need to be able to progress well into the subsequent topics.
And what is the way forward?
If we can reduce the time we spend on the school holidays without removing them, because still our learners have to take a break. For example, in the third term, you are aware that schools close just around 8th to 10th of November normally. There's nothing stopping us from having learners go up to the middle of December, around 15th of December. That will be a lot of weeks already saved. We can also think about adding an hour or two, because we don't want to overload the learners, to the normal school hours. You know, if we are going to normally begin teaching at 8:30, then we stop teaching at 3:30, can we start teaching at 7:30 and stretch our teaching time up to maybe about 4 o'clock without removing the time these children should have for playing?
Education stakeholders continue to crack the mathematics into how they will save the lost school calendar. The competency-based curriculum also has its share of challenges that shot out as a result of the pandemic.
In school component, which learners do with the support of their teachers and within the school environment. So I would say in terms of challenges, that has been grossly affected by the COVID-19, because as you are aware, we sent learners home and therefore we stopped doing what we were doing in school.
However, teachers want the learners in school to continue with classes, as there is a worry of contracting and spreading the COVID-19 virus if permitted to go home. Sharon Baranga, TV47.
Thanks, Sharon. The Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association, PERAC, has condemned the vandalism of property in bars by police officers as they conduct enforcement of COVID-19 regulations even before curfew hours. The association has asked the Ministry of Health to publish the protocols developed, which will provide the necessary guidance to the officers as they conduct the operations. Nanok Loren with the details.
During the ongoing operations to enforce COVID-19 regulations led by police officers in different parts of the country have led to the arrest of many, and some bar owners witnessing destruction of their property, an act the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association, PERAC, has condemned.
We have also painfully witnessed the destruction of property and investments by some police officers, in some cases long before the designated closing time, which risk of malice is clearly an illegality. And we have asked the Inspector General of Police to advise police officers across the country against that kind of retrogressive behavior.
The organization now wants the Ministry of Health to hasten the publication process of operating procedures that were developed to aid in guiding the law enforcers.
We got together, developed the protocols, but unfortunately, up to now, these protocols that should have been entrenched in law are yet to be published by the Ministry of Health. We urge the ministry to speed up the publication, as the regulation would give much needed guidance.
And as police officers continue to intensify enforcement of COVID-19 regulations in the country, security officers in Murang'a County have enforced a crackdown on those flouting COVID-19 rules, with 5 eateries and a number of bars being shut down.
Kuna tu hoteli zenye asijamit the health guidelines, wengi hawana thermogun, wengine ile social distance hakuna. So hizo hoteli tumefunga kama hoteli 5.
So far, more than 200 people have been arrested for violating COVID-19 guidelines. Nanok Loren, TV47.
And from that point, we take a short break and we're coming back with more that is on the newspapers.
is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Mbuvi, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes, mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Mbuvi, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV47. Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain.
There you go. You can calm down.
Any discomfort. We have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
I'm a chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. Gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast time for the newspaper review as we try to load on all the papers. As always, you have the Daily Nation, the Standard newspaper, and the People Daily. So the People Daily is what is loading right now. Meanwhile, we can start off with what is on the Standard newspaper. I have George Kamano, who's a philanthropist and a politician, joining me to look into the papers. And good morning, George.
Good morning.
You're well?
Yes, I'm very well.
Sawa, good to have you this morning as we take a look at what is here captured on the newspaper. And well, interesting times. I mean, the U.S. in its own very special way has found a way on our newspapers on almost a daily basis as we take a look at the proceedings of the electioneering period and calm down. Donald Trump, of course, being told by Kenyans on Twitter, or maybe generally the Twitter fraternity, and the global fraternity too is also talking to Donald Trump, trying to tell him, you know what, you just take a chill pill, accept and move on. What does it paint about generally America, and what then would we equate this in comparison to what has been happening in Kenya, across Africa and all that in terms of matters democracy?
Well, first of all, I think what Trump is, I think we've seen far too many times in Kenya what Trump is doing. So we are not strangers to that particular just like pull and tug. Mm-hmm. At the moment, America apparently is supposed to be one of the, the leading economies. Is supposed to be the democracy to follow. But now, right now, we've seen that it can crumble. You can have a few individuals who refuse, and it's just it's human. It's just a human nature to cling on to power. It's not something that's very synonymous to Africa as they used to say. They say that African leaders say don't like letting go of power. But I think, power is the same across all divide. Sometimes it's too sweet. We're seeing Donald Trump has refused to let go, and the first appearance is made since his oust in, I think, 6 days. It was yesterday when he went to a memorial, and he didn't have much to say. These are changing times. These are things to watch,
Okay, well, we'll leave it. And yes, like you rightfully put, it's a developing story. We'll be looking into the details of the same as we proceed, or later on, or on days to come. Team edits BBI report, and there's a lot of talk on whether indeed the BBI should be edited or not, much as the principals would want to have it the way it is. What do you make of this scenario? There's that story on the front page, and equally on this one that speaks of Uhuru's last bullet at this particular time. Well, looking at the BBI and generally his Big Four agenda and the legacy that he seeks to, leave with us. Most of the people argue that, it is it's a do or die affair for him. Whether this is indeed a last bullet or not, remember he said that he's not interested in getting back to power. But from the look of things, and even as analysts or critics continue to argue that really the BBI change of constitution could just be his strategy of finding himself back.
Well, let's start with the latter question. First, about the edits on the BBI, I think we can't be doing this. We've been doing this for the last 2 years with the task force and everything, and I'm just very shocked. Especially, I was very embarrassed to see religious leaders coming out and saying that the plight was not heard. It was supposed to be an inclusive, document. So of course they wouldn't put we also submitted, I personally submitted a few of our own memorandum, our own things that we thought that need to be put there. And we've seen some of them there, some of them are not there. And we expected that. We didn't expect them to copy paste everything and put it there. And it's very sad to see leaders right now saying that they were not included in this in the report. The other day we've seen governors are just trying to be the people that they are, and saying that they need a big handshake, they need like a severance package, and they need retirement. Some things that don't make sense. We can't handle it, and that's why such things were not included in the BBI. So I feel like we should just move full steam ahead, because at this point we'll just keep on coming back, because we cannot please 47 million Kenyans. At the end of the day, there's going to be discord. There's going to be people who agree to disagree, and that's why we go to a referendum, so that we choose whoever wants to be for it and whoever wants to be against it. At this point, I think that's just the best way to do it. And as for Uhuru's legacy, I think right now is that's why I think we should now continue with the referendum, because he only has give or take about 1 year and a few months. There's still measures he hasn't done, according food security, because the other principles, the CSs need to work. We have some agriculture irrigation projects that still need to be foreseen. There are things that he needs to amend when it comes to we're having talks about devaluing our money because of bringing in more FDI, foreign direct investment, and so forth. Those are things that we should really consider, right, more than the just BBI and politicking. Things that really need to be done.
Well, and as if many would argue that it's about President Uhuru Kenyatta. You realize that in most cases, it's come out that it's people who are pushing him to that direction. And now, interestingly, the clerics argue that Uhuru's term should be extended. They say or maybe just to pick it up all, evangelical bishops argue that move will give President Uhuru Kenyatta more time to deliver on inclusive BBI report. This is a story captured on page 7 of the Daily Nation, and an interesting one. You can always take a look at it and see this conversation and where it is going to go in terms of, that push to probably have President Uhuru Kenyatta back on board. And a different one right here on matters scandals, and members of parliament told that connected influence peddlers walked into and out of agency with big deals. What are we talking about? We're talking about 4 billion shillings of COVID-19 tenders were dished out on phone. Hello there. Top KEMSA officials threw procurement regulations out of the window and awarded multi-million shillings contracts for the supply of face masks and sanitizers to firms that were not qualified through phone calls in the most brazen of scandals. The story captured on page 4. Looks like we'll still talk about this KEMSA thing for quite a while now.
Well, it's a misuse of public funds, so I think it should be in the news as long as possible, because such people have to be brought, they have to face the consequences, they have to be charged, they have to even to go through public trial. Because this is the only way to stop this kind of behavior, which is very, very not so good. Yesterday we saw our CS Taika was saying that, that he has to sell things at a 2 billion loss, which sometimes we have to understand it, because at that particular point the PPEs were very high all across the world. But it just doesn't mean that we can keep hoarding them, because at the end of the day, the value is just going to decrease. We're still going to go on a loss. So what else can we do apart from now distributing? Because right now we were seeing that there's a shortage of masks, especially in schools, and universities, and the countermeasure of some of the people in the education ministry was saying that they need actually they said 2 billion to procure these goods, and actually these goods are there. They just haven't been distributed, and this is the same approach our government used, which is the top-bottom approach instead of the bottom-up approach. And things have to change. We have to accept the loss. We have to just sell out whatever the KEMSA has, although people are very, very skeptic in trading with them, but we have to do what we have to do.
Okay, well, that one, we leave it at that, as we also take a look at this interesting one. Yes, the annual State of the Nation address set to be conducted today by President Uhuru Kenyatta. And top is that Kenyans have high expectations, and of course they will be throwing the weight of the same to President Uhuru Kenyatta today as he addresses some of the critical issues that face us as a country in his annual State of the Nation address speech. Well, definitely the COVID-19 issue is one thing that Kenyans will expect him to address, and a couple of other major issues that have been touched on right here on the front page of the Daily Nation. COVID-19 pandemic, preparedness for a second wave. Of course, a battered economy is one thing that we need to hear him discuss. The aspect of corruption, education is crucial, crime and mental health. I mean, there's a problem with mental health in the country, which is actually something that we'll be discussing today. The mental health and how best we can ensure that we have everyone else, in the best of state mentally, because as many have looked at it, it has been considered as, a shadow pandemic, because even as we battle with COVID-19, it is tough on ground on matters mental health. So what are your expectations, on today's address?
Well, I just think that today, most of the things he'll talk about, he will touch on the Big Four agenda, because it embodies everything, food security, health, infrastructure, affordable housing. I think those are the things that he's going to speak on. As we see, Kenya is on the right direction, especially when it comes to now manufacturing. We have several EPZs, which is very good for economy. And also we've seen what COVID did. What COVID did meant that there was nothing that could come. It closed our borders. Now we saw the value of having this EPZs, of having, being a manufacturing hub. Because what we saw was what we call it's called reverse globalization, where instead of getting things globally, we had to now engineer and manufacture our needs, to sustain our own economy,
Okay.
and this is going to be it's a good tangent, it's a good way forward for economy. I think these are the things that Uhuru is going to touch on. He's also going to touch on the COVID-19 pandemic, which is right now hot, and we are seeing how we've increased by 341%. That was of last week. I'm not sure about this week. He needs now, because today also we are seeing that there's only going to be about 130 members of parliament at the session because of the COVID-19 rules, as opposed to the 400 plus that are always there. So it's going to be something very different, something very to show that to other Kenyans that we should adhere to the guidelines, because also our leaders are adhering to the guidelines.
Okay. Well, all right, and we'll be giving you details of that particular point of the address in the course of the day. Other stories captured on the front page of the Daily Nation: the best and worst senators revealed. I think that is one thing that we'll be looking at. The youthful senators seem to be doing well. Is this something that we can go by? Because the other time we had that release on the performance of members of parliament, and really it was bashed. And in most cases there was that talk that, you know what, this was analysis, or this is something that was paid for. What would you make of this particular one? I don't know whether you've been able to look at the report. Amongst the best performing ones, Tula Kilonzo Jr., Kipchumba Murkomen, and a couple of others who are pretty much young tax.
Well, I've browsed through it, and it's good to see, young leadership taking the helm, and young leadership also, representing the majority of Kenyans. Because our economy has about 60% of youth, and when I say youth, it's anything below 35. So they need to be represented this much. I don't think why we should applaud them or just keep clapping our hands, because they're actually doing their job, what they were meant for. Actually be put into question the ones who are not doing their jobs. The ones who feel like it's a breeze, the people who are always here gallivanting when it comes to political rallies and everything, they thrive on that. But when it comes to actually sitting down, giving something that is concrete, that's going to help Kenyans or the people that they represent, they are very lackluster. So we should applaud the people who did their jobs right, and also see the people who didn't do their jobs right, and see what we're going to, and tell and educate Kenyans about how their vote is very important for the next coming election, which is not so far away.
Okay. Well, on that aside, America is back. Biden tells the world President-elect called President Donald Trump's refusal to concede an embarrassment, and dismisses the standoff as unimportant. That, of course, we've touched on briefly. And a very nice one here to note: Kenyan appointed as UN Special Advisor. That is Alice Nderitu, a renowned conflict mediator, has been named Special Advisor in the prevention of genocide. That's a story captured on page 3 of the Daily Nation. We congratulate and celebrate her, as we hope that indeed she's going to bring these great achievements. That aside, to the People Daily front page, they speak of the numerous numbers of COVID-19. 65,804 is where we stand at. As of yesterday, we had 1,216 recorded positive COVID-19 cases. That is a report of the last 24 hours as of yesterday. And ministry says it has no plans to halt learning of exam classes. A story that has been captured on page 17. I don't know what you make of the situation on, or in the education sector as it stands today.
When it comes to education, I'm a bit impartial, and I would stick to what I said before. I feel like we should continue, because COVID is here with us. It's something we have to live with. It will be here for a very long time. So it just doesn't make sense for us. We've already disrupted a whole, almost about 8 months, or it's almost a year, and it makes no sense We have the pioneer classes like the class 4, and because we've introduced a new education system, it'll just because it was supposed to be almost a pilot program, and from this they should learn how to now to better the curriculum and so forth. So it'll be a lot of money will be wasted when it comes to that, with the preparations and all that. And also most of the Kenyans, it will be sad to see someone lag back and go back to school 1 year behind. As you said before, mental health is a very big issue. So we really need to think about what this will do for our students, because as it is, a student has already prepared themselves mentally that after this year I won't be doing this, and they've taken their time, they've done their revision, they've studied. I think it's unfair for the student, and it will affect them adversely, and it will take a toll on them. So some things seem a bit ad hoc, some things seem like they're a bit heavy, but some things just need to be done. There's a book I'm reading called by Barbara Theory. It's called the shock theory. So it just tells you when things are hot, you should just continue. You strike when things are hot, make changes hastily. Like it's baptism by fire, but it's not really baptism by fire here, because we've taken measures, we've taken precautions, and it's something that we've been discussing since May.
All right, and yes, matters education still happening right here in the country. What way forward is equally one of the things that we expect the president to address. But away from it, forget NHIF. Kagwe tells COVID-19 patients and CSAs that those seeking hospital treatment will have to foot their bills because the national insurer cannot afford the cost, even as most private insurers also, or insurance companies, exclude the pandemic. This is a story captured on page 6. And it's not practical for NHIF and private insurance companies to cover pandemics. I do not know what you make of this. This is something that has not been received so well by a majority of people who probably pay for NHIF. And, at that time when we are talking of a conversation where we'll have universal coverage for every other person. Remember, for the longest of time, most of the people who've been quarantined or maybe isolated at some point argue that, it's too expensive a process for them. And you find that sometimes the government will tend to frustrate them at that point where they're supposed to exit, because they're being told that they have to foot for the bills, for the days that they have been in, quarantine facilities. But equally, they argue that they did not choose to go for, the quarantine processes. And even worse is that they do not have money enough to cater for that.
Yes. First of all, I'll just redirect you a bit and then just talk about the elephant in the room. I was very disappointed by our CS Kagwe. It's a big travesty that he had to say what he said yesterday. When you were talking about the COVID-19 immunization, he actually said there's actually nothing like that. How can, and if you know what immunization is, of course, if it's the flu, it's introducing antibodies of the disease into your body so that it can resist it. But he went on and to embarrass us in the whole world, our whole health minister, and say that how I don't know the exact words he used, but he actually said that how would you know that the disease get you? It sounded, it was such a travesty, it was such a dumbfounded. How would you say something like that and you deal with this issue? How did anyone who was printed on last Monday, we've seen on the newspapers, we were shown the people who've lost their lives in the past few weeks, So how do you question that? How do you tell those people and their families, like, how did they know that they were going to get that? Vaccine is something that should help us, and it's a good thing. That the world is coming to, that at least we found a vaccine. At least now people can move freely, trade can continue all around the world. But we have an African CS, and a few days ago I was talking about how to get an MCA job, to get an MP job, the minimum requirement should be at least a degree. If this was the case, I don't think we would have the likes of our CS speaking things like that. And it was passed, I think it was tabled in Parliament and passed a few years ago, but it's been taken to court because we need policy makers at least to have some sort of education. Then at least maybe some of them would understand, what actually and what an immunization means,
All right, and coming back to this story that we've been talking about, it is back again. 11 members of parliament risk losing seats after elections challenged in court. Two Murang'a residents wants the court to declare election of the said members of parliament that it was in violation of the constitution because they failed to resign before they proceeded to the elections. This is a conversation that has been ongoing, and indeed we have these 11 members right there that risk losing their job. Remember also what happened to this member of parliament should be from Gatundu, yes. And something that probably triggered what is happening in regards to this. I do not know whether we need to weigh in on this, but an interesting story here also. Sex abuse report points a finger at Pope John Paul and Benedict, says that a Vatican probe has found that two recent pontiffs and church officials ignored allegations about the U.S. cardinal later found guilty, and they are being accused for covering up on sexual scandals. What do you make of this?
I think nowadays the sex and clergy is almost, and it's very saddening, but it is what it is. It's what the world we live in. I think also people should continue being outspoken, and thank God we live in a world of social media where news is carried forward very fast and news is spread very, very fast. But also we need to realize that there's also a lot of fake news being peddled. But also let's take it with a pinch of salt. Let's sort out the news. Let's see, what has, if there's evidence to back whatever has been done. And they should now charge these people in courts, because we've seen this in Kenya. We've seen many children being molested by church clergy, and they just happen to move forward with their lives, but we forget about the victim. What happens to the victim? Because as it is, first there's a lot of trauma. There's there's everyone. It's not the best thing for any child to go through, especially in these times. I think a lot should be done. I think persecution should be carried out swiftly, and maybe such cases will be no more.
Okay, well, thank you so much, George Kamanu, for that. I think that's where we get to wind up on the newspaper review. There's still so much. You can always grab a copy and get to see what has been captured. George Kamanu, it was good having you this morning, and we take that short break. We'll be coming back with more after this.
Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Mbuvi, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes, mimi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Mbuvi, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV47.
Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain.
There you go. You can calm down.
Any discomfort. We have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. He gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m.
Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes. Mi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa sio ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV47.
Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down. calm
any
down.
discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day. He gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m.
Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Movie, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo. Yes. Mi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa sio ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Movie, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV47.
Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down. calm
any
down.
discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
I'm a consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
with just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day, who gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m.
Life is a journey, and we all have ups and downs, highs and lows, and celebrities are no exception.
Do you know I couldn't pay rent? Do you know there's a time I went 3 days without food? If you read my book, I ate Colgate for dinner.
On Coffee with Mbuvi, we get up close and personal.
Nilizaliwa hivyo? Yes. Mi sijawahi ona.
We have candid conversations that are inspiring.
Na acha nikwambie, mtu mmebarikiwa na mlikuwa nyote mko kwa line, mko kwa foleni. Huyu akibarikiwa si ametoka, bado foleni inasonga. Wewe ni next.
Humorous.
This is going to be the craziest interview ever.
And life-changing.
Success is value system and the legacy you leave.
Coffee with Mbuvi, every Sunday at 8 p.m. only on TV47.
Every muscle, every bone is our concern.
A lot of pressure with both your hands, you're going to collapse the infant's chest.
Any pain,
There you go. You can calm down, calm down, calm down. calm
any
down.
discomfort, we have just the right doctor.
A consultant breast surgeon.
I'm an emergency care specialist.
A chiropractor.
With just the right remedy.
Majority of patients will actually just require supportive treatment.
Join us on Body Garage every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. because we care. How do you like your meals? Sweet and tasty or spicy and savory? On the Throwdown, we bring you our chef of the day, who gives you ideas on how to make amazing meals from the comfort of your home. Every Sunday from 6:30 p.m.
that are very important for you and for me. Welcome on board. As always, hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. The numbers to call will be running down on your screen. We'd love to hear what you have to say about what we'll be picking on. Technically, the BBR will be discussing that. We'll be taking a look at the performance of the Senate. We'll also be taking a look at today's State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta and what we expect moving forward. And importantly, we focus on the cases of COVID-19, even as Health CS argues that NHIF is not going to cater for the bills. So if you're out there and you are in isolation center or in quarantine, you have no choice but to cater for your own bills because it is getting tighter and tougher for the country. What does it mean even as we seek to meet the universal health coverage is technically what we'll be looking at. And we also do not forget to talk about the education sector, which is crucial towards the advancement of the nation. Welcome on board once again. Joining me for this particular conversation is Kitui Central Member of Parliament, Honorable Makali Mulu, and we also have nominated Member of Parliament, that is Dr. Olesankok David, and we'll also be having the Member of Parliament, that is, what do we call this? Nambale Member of Parliament. Yes, Bunyasi Sakwa. I was looking for the constituency. I don't want to miss it out. So welcome on board once again. Weshimiwa, good morning. Good to have you. And later on, we'll also be having governance expert. Actually, he's on a governance expert. That is Joseph Simeha joining us via Skype. Also, Honorable Bunyasi Sakwa will be joining us via Skype. So we kickstart the conversation this morning. It's a ta conversation because we are addressing a lot of things. Start off, of course, with the State of the Nation, the annual State of the Nation address. President Uhuru Kenyatta addressed the nation just the other day in regards to matters COVID-19. Do you suppose he's going to bring a different angle to this in today's address? First of all, are you going to be in attendance now that there's limited number?
Thank you, Linda, for hosting us.
Yeah.
We are going to be in attendance, but as you are aware, very few of us will be inside the chamber. Others will have to sit outside because of the numbers and the requirements by the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
So we expect that a lot will be said relating to COVID-19. And this is basically because a lot has happened in this country, and there's been a lot of issues which have cropped up as a result of COVID-19. But I do remember most of the focus will be actually not on really COVID-19 issues, but how to address some of the negative impacts of COVID-19. From where I sit as an economist, I would be interested very much to hear what the president will say about how to really assist the economy get back to on our feet. And this is basically because a lot of Kenyans are suffering, more so those who are employed and lost their jobs. Would want to hear what strategies are there in place, and the president will be proposing to enable growth in the economy so that they can start getting back their jobs. I also expect the president to talk about really the education sector. You know, after opening some of the classes from standard 4, we've seen in the papers, and we have also witnessed, because we are representatives of the people, some this disease is already in some of the schools. Some of the schools have been closed. So as Kenyans would be, and also as parents, would be very much interested to hear what the president says about reopening of schools and what is happening currently on those who are already in schools. The other issue which will be important is also the issue of, majority of the Kenyans are now stressed with what is happening. Some have lost their loved ones. The economy is doing very badly. So the stress levels are very high for all Kenyans.
All right.
And, we've not been talking much about mental health and all things like so. To me, I think now this is the time Kenya should start talking about how do we support those who are already under very high levels of stress and need to be supported just to live normal life. So those are some of the issues, but generally COVID-19 will be a major issue. And now that Parliament will be playing a very key role in terms of BBI proposals. I'm sure BBI proposals also will also be discussed in this speech. So that as Parliament we see what is expected of us, and then we start preparing early for whatever interventions Parliament will be getting involved in. Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, coming at a time when, yes, at least President Uhuru Kenyatta has the support of ODM, so we're not going to witness a lot of noise in there. And at a time when, again, we're dealing with COVID-19. So the president has been put into that situation where constantly he has to address the nation. He has to confirm that we are okay, that the government is in charge. Your expectations for the day?
First of all, Linda, thank you very much for hosting us and hosting me with my great friend, Honorable Makali Mulu, who is actually an expert economist and a very good friend and a very good debater when they come to the chambers. I'm sorry today he missed because I think he did not book on time. I did book on time. I'm in seat 21.
Oh, you will be there. Okay.
Under the leadership of Honorable Justin Muturi, who is the third in command. Everything is done digitally. And no favorism, no prejudice. If you book on time, you'll be there. So you'll be in. If you don't book on time, so my friend will be sitting in the chamber. And is it lobby? You will be in the lobby.
The lobby,
so you'll follow us closely and keenly.
Virtually.
Anyway, what we expect, personally, I expect 5 major issues to be addressed today in the State of the Nation address. One is the issue, of course, of COVID-19, and not on how it is affecting us because it is already here with us, but on the economic recovery strategy that we will have as a country post-COVID-19. Let us now discuss about for post-COVID-19 because we are within the pandemic. We know everything will have an expiry date.
Yes.
It will also expire.
Right.
That is the first thing that I expect him, and as Honorable Makali have said, that we expect to know the safety of our kids in school and the safety of the kids who will be opening in January, if that is the case with the president also.
Okay.
Secondly, I will also like my president to address the issue of the Big Four agenda and the Jubilee Manifesto. Where are we?
Okay.
We need this legacy secured. For instance, when we talk of the housing, yes, affordable housing, which will have created 2.5 million jobs, because we were to have 500,000 units. Each unit, of course, will require 5 people: a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, and a painter, and a mason.
Right.
So if we had done that, 5 times 500,000, 2.5 million jobs, which the government will have gotten another alternative source of income in terms of rent.
Okay.
But now we are in kazi mtaani, unafyeka nyasi, unalipwa. Sio wewe ndio unakojolea, Mungu atanyeshea imee tena hiyo nyasi. So the government will not get anything in returns.
Okay.
I expect those young men to use that energy in affordable housing and probably in food security in agriculture. We will be harvesting now maize.
Okay, all right. Well,
yes, so I think that is the, and then of course the issue of BBI.
Yes.
The one I will really expect him to address whether we open the BBI, because pastoralists, we aired our issues.
Sorted.
No, we aired our issues in Narok Stadium, we aired our issues in KICC, and not even a sentence was captured, not even a comma.
But the other day,
and personal stability, no, forget about it.
Oh, yeah?
Is it there?
It will be.
We want it to be there. So if it is open, we want to know if they will be added there. And then again, the issue of personal stability.
Yes.
Because nothing was captured for personal stability. In fact, there is no mention of personal stability at all.
We hope that on this editorial aspect, then like Baba says, this is going to be adjusted. This was
who is your Baba? I think I know you are Baba.
Right?
Your Baba is at home.
We fought about that a couple of times, Oshimiwa. Let me not even bring that conversation up. But gentlemen, let's make this brief so at least we all have ample time to speak. And coming to you, the gentlemen on Skype, and we have Honorable Bunyasi Sakwa and Joseph Simeha. What are your expectations for the day? Either of you can start.
Take one of us to start.
Yes, one of you at a time.
Okay, fair enough. Good morning, everybody who's out there, and my colleague on Skype, like myself.
Good morning.
I think that there are a number of areas. One is what I would have liked him to speak, and one where I think he's likely to speak about. I think the big issues in the country at the moment, indeed, is COVID. COVID in terms of its manifestations, to get a realistic assessment for the nation where we actually are, because we don't get that clearly, then the monologue we get on a weekly basis is not very helpful, given now the broad spectrum of the COVID challenge that we've got now, in terms of testing capacity, in terms of positivity levels, in terms of bed capacity and other facilities and so on. We're a little silent as a nation on that. One. Then two, of course, he'll probably talk about the economic recovery post-COVID. It can't be post-COVID. Economic performance despite of COVID. I think that's now where he's probably will say. But I think that underlying all of this COVID, BBI, there's going to be political tension in his mind. There has to be. Because the country is moving different directions. What was intended to be done to unite the country is not what is happening. He has to address those issues of how to bring the country together, and he has to diffuse the sense of chest thumping and arrogance that we hear from public officials. I think he'll be speaking as a head of state rather than as a head of a party. And as head of state, I'm sure he's more fully aware than any of us. The tensions in the unity of the country. I think those are some of the areas that he will be speaking out or need to speak about.
All right. Well, coming to you, Joseph Simeha, and I do not want to inform what it is that you wish that the president would capture. But importantly, I've not seen any of the gentlemen asking about the aspect of graft, in as much as maybe, well, Honorable Sankok argues that President Uhuru Kenyatta needs to secure his legacy. One of the key things that he wishes to address during this time of his, maintaining his legacy is the aspect of graft. Do you suppose that he needs to address something on that? I mean, look at the papers today. The stories that we're having, graft is not missing out on the same.
If you give me the space, actually, I will sort of stay from what you need to about. And I'll give you my reasons. My reasons are that we have experienced the administration, the Kenyatta Ruto administration from 2010. This is 2010. I do not expect any crisis. I do not expect anything fundamentally different. In fact, for me, the only thing that Uhuru Kenyatta has surprised me is acknowledgement of the brokenness of our political system and the need for us to do something about it as a nation, together as a nation, not with him and his party and his government, but as a nation. If we were to actually focus on that, and if we were to get it right and do it well, then all the things we are mentioning, coronavirus, corruption, issues of governance and so on, there will be subsets of this desire for a national rebirth. The price he has given me is the acknowledgement, personal acknowledgement of one, our broken system, two, our painful history as a nation, and his acknowledgement of his own participation in this pain, his own contribution to this pain. Therefore, giving the other leaders a challenge to also search their souls. So and acknowledge that we all have contributed to something that is not good, and we all need to come together and cure the nation.
Okay.
That is what I expect. So I wouldn't be expecting anything strategic, whether it's in terms of politics of governance, of national governance, or counter politics of corruption and so on. No, but if you can focus, in my humble opinion, on this very brave thing he has done to say that, look, something has gone terribly wrong, let us address it. There are challenges in this, how it's being addressed, but let us address it. That would be for me my big thing from what he says today.
All right, well, gentlemen, in the best interest of time, I think I will try and divide these subjects that we want to touch this morning. Honorable Makali Mulu, you tell us what you make of, yes, the economic situation, we all know it's dire, and how best you think the government should come in again to address the situation. What are some of the proposals that you'd front, so at least we take this up? We'll be taking a look at the aspect of health. I'll expect you, Honorable Sankok, to tell us what you think we should do in regards to matters health, even as, the situation gets dire by the day. And the rest of the gentlemen also on matters education is very crucial. And of course, we'll have Simeha touch on the aspect of the BBI. Well, I would want to assume that in as much as he's one of the people who worked towards crafting this, then he should be in a better position to explain it to us. And importantly, also he should be able to come out to defend it. And then we'll have the other gentlemen, the gentlemen actually get to counter the same. So matters economy, it is crucial today. We're still at that level of limbo. And yes, President Uhuru Kenyatta, from the word go, set up a task force that was to address the aspect of economic recovery. Do you suppose that so far they've done a good job? Do you suppose that we stand somewhere even as we still continue to battle with COVID-19, and the balance on whether indeed we should save the economy or health?
Thank you, Linda. Linda, listening to my colleagues and what they have said in terms of the State of the Nation address, I think we must all agree this is a very abnormal year. It's not just a normal year. And there's no way that address will just be the normal address where he talks about state of the economy, the security, and so I think we'll be every Kenyan will be looking for those kind of those specific issues which address an abnormal situation. And when you look at the way the economy has been battered this year, if you look at the 2020-21 budget and the proposals which had been captured in that budget, the government had done a lot in terms of preparing for COVID-19 issues. For example, the issue of the Kasi Mtaani, the issues of reducing the taxes, where you move from corporate tax from 30 to 25. Those Kenyans who used to pay 30% would be also reduced to 25%. The issue of reducing VAT from 16 to 14. This was just a way of cushioning the economy so that we were able to move.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you realize, despite doing all that, the economy is not doing well in terms of revenue collection. This is an area where we've already suffered. And anytime you talk about a depressed revenue kind of collection, then the issues of debt also come in. Because where you can't fund from your own resources, then you are expected to borrow to meet that gap. The other option is then you must review your programs so that you adjust your levels of expenditure to where you can meet that cost from your resources. But to be said, Linda, you must have seen now people are talking about even increased public debt.
Yeah.
And to me, this is an area where we need to Treasury and the economists in Treasury to think seriously about how to address this matter. Because you remember, Parliament did approve the ceiling to be 9 trillion.
Yeah.
I will not be surprised if you see the government coming back to Parliament again for review of that ceiling. Because basically, when you look at the programs we are proposed to implement, we have to borrow more. But the question is, at the same time, are there areas where we could reduce? Normally, as economists, we talk about austerity measures. Are there areas where we can say, let's not do this year, so that we stagger the implementation to a level that we start living within our means?
Yeah.
Well, I know it might be very tricky, but I think to me that's the way to go.
Okay.
I think as Kenyans, we need to start saying that we want to grow as an economy, but at the same time, we must do it in a way which is sustainable. Because I think some of the things we are doing might not be sustainable in the long run. So when you talk about the economy generally, I think really the president is in a catch-22, in a situation where you are between a hard place and a rock.
Yeah.
That any move you take, then the options for you are very limited.
Unlimited. Okay.
And that's why you see the technocrats in the government must really crack their minds to see the way out.
Okay.
So one of the things we'll be looking forward to, because what is happening now, there's depressed demand in the country because people have no money. So to me, any move which will make sure that you improve demand and at the same time also improve supply. That will help the economy grow. Okay. And so the question should be, what do we do around demand and what do we do around supply, so that we inject resources to the economy and at the same time ensure that this benefits trickle to the lowest levels of the economy, so that it's all the Kenyans who are benefiting. Because the problem we have with these corruption issues you're talking about, Linda, is that money gets to very few pockets. Not every Kenyan is benefiting. At any time you have such a situation which we have in 2020, the abnormal environment, and then you get people getting this money out of the system, then it worsens the situation.
And I'd love the Honorable Sankok to come in with the aspect of corruption in this aspect of, recovering the economy, or at least making the economy stay afloat. While many have argued that, it's a global problem, reality is that we have to chart the way forward as a nation. How able are we to chart the way forward when we're talking about the stories that we have today? 4 billion being lost to tenders, and tenders that were not genuine at all. And, these tenders were dished out via phone. A process as crucial as a medical tender being awarded via phone.
Yeah, Linda, thank you very much. First of all, you have told me to address the issue of health that we expect the president to address. And
we'll come to health. Let's just crack down on the aspect of the economy, and then we'll come to health, and we'll have the gentlemen also give their take.
Yes. Yeah. So it was really very pathetic to see that the people can really steal from the dying.
Yeah.
If you can steal from somebody who is dying, if you can steal money that will have saved a lot of lives, including your own mother, grandmother, or even your own wife, or even your own life, then you really realize which situation we are in terms of morality. We are totally in a very immoral society. And I expect the president to come with an address in which he will actually tell us what happened with the KEMSA scandal, what happened with the mafia house scandal. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? As people who appropriate funds, because we'll be addressing from Parliament, he will tell us, did our budget go to waste? Are we really still there to budget for health or so on. And Linda, as Honorable Benson had said, my colleague, is that this is a very abnormal year. It's an year that we have been faced by an enemy that we cannot tackle using weaponry, using our armies. Is an invisible enemy, as our president have always put it. An enemy that we don't know how to handle. An enemy that come at night, come during daytime, come in social gathering and so on. So we are faced in a situation whereby we don't know whether to save our economy and lose our lives.
Right.
You know, as Honorable Benson has said, is that we are in catch-22. Yes, we want to lock down the country.
Right.
So that the spread of this virus can be contained.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are people who earn from hand to mouth, who must work today to eat in the evening.
Right.
And you want to lock them down. What will they be eating? Is the government able to afford? Are we taking money meant for SGR to feed the masses?
Yeah.
Are we taking money that meant for road to feed the masses? What is our priority at the moment?
Okay.
Our priority is to save our citizens. And that is why, for me, I will expect the president to come with more measures of saving our citizens from the lower cadre.
Yeah.
So that if we have to reduce taxes, let us not reduce the taxes from the upper cadre.
Yeah.
Let the upper cadre be overtaxed. Yes? Let us increase the taxes from the upper cadre to 50%.
All right.
So that we can use that money to cushion the lower cadre.
All right.
Let us redirect our finances and our energies from roads, from studies to saving them, to feeding even them.
Okay, just how realistic is that? And I'll want Simeha to come in. Looking at the technicalities of what it is that Waheshimiwas are presenting today on cushioning the situation as at now. I mean, also we've seen lots of things that have been done towards cushioning the people, towards keeping us afloat. I mean, I'd love to know what will be the ultimate repercussions of this, because you realize that so much of other stakeholders or so much of other institutions have been strained, so at least we're able to survive. When he talks about, taking more tax from the upper cadre, to save the situation for the lower cadres, just how realistic would that be, and of what impact would it be?
Honestly, I mean, on matters economy, I would refer to Honorable Makau there.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I think my colleagues there are being very optimistic. I say this based on the experience we've had with the government since 2013.
Yeah.
I think it has done all the experiments it could do on the economy, how to manage the economy, how to revive a failing economy. A lot of these experiments have been disastrous to the very same economy. Several of these experiments have failed. So it looks to me like, and I sympathize with them, I don't know whether I should be doing that.
Yeah.
It looks to me like they really have run out of these experiments.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'd rather caution myself that I shouldn't have any expectations. And I hope anybody who has also had the same experience as me in this country would want to do the same, so that you feel yourself the disappointment, because there have been too many.
Okay.
And this is what I'm saying, and I do agree with the fact that this year is a lot more complicated because of the challenges that we all know about. They're not just health challenges, they are governance challenges, they are economic challenges, which makes it even worse for this government. So I do not expect, honestly, looking at the numbers and looking at the governance scenario in Kenya, I do not expect anything that you say is sort of magical, that is going to change things. I expect that we've tried through these problems that we have, but we nurse a new tool.
Yeah.
That our hope should be, in my humble opinion, in what we can hope for the future, post-2020, post-2021, post-2022. That there's not going to, I really would love to be surprised if Uhuru and Ruto were to do something that would, bring up something positive in the economy, even just in terms of cushioning the most unfortunate, as Mr. Sankok is saying there. I would really like to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid I remain pessimistic because of my experience living working, surviving in this country.
Yeah.
I'm very reluctant to sort of like speculate positively. I'd rather speculate positively on other things on which I think President Kenyatta has had some courage, to me some surprising courage, to say that let's bite this bullet. But in terms of the economy, in terms of fighting corruption, I prefer to be a very cautious attitude.
All right.
That's what Ruto government can do.
Well, Honorable Bunyasi, have we gotten desperate to that point where we can say, let's take a chill pill? Because clearly nothing much is going to come out from today's address, or nothing much is going to come out in, towards helping us deal with the tough times economically. Should we just sit pretty and say that, after all, the global fraternity is equally going through that, so we're not special in any way, and there's really nothing much that we can do in regards to the same? And I'd also want you to address the aspect of devolution, which could have been instrumental in helping us, come back. But reality is that also the counties are struggling.
Thank you very much indeed. At least what my colleagues have said. I think that the best pitch for the president today would be to talk about hope, about all those things, but in terms of how good the future is going to be, how tough it is now, just as you said, both for us and globally. I think he'll pitch it on hope. Hope is easier to deal with than today's reality.
Okay.
There'll be expectations on what he can do to help ease the situation now or in the current budget year. And when I listen to Mheshimiwa Makali Mulu, with whom we sit together on the budget committee, and he talked a bit about what they have to show, or they said they have to struggle and show where the growth will come from, how to inject strength in the economy. We're going to have a supplementary bill as normally we do, but there isn't much courage in his administration to truly restructure the budget, to be able to accommodate what is necessary. I think Makali will agree that part of what has been a problem, that a large part of what they propose as a budget is business as usual, as it were. Mostly big and large projects that have a long gestation period, and yet we need short-term, immediate actions before we get back into the frame of mind to do the longer-term things. So I think the president is going to tell us about, in health, about how things will get better, how we will turn the corner.
Yeah.
I don't know that he will, but he should have gotten into the worrying issue, the lack of capacity in the counties, despite the funding that is supposed to go to the counties.
Yeah.
It's gotten suddenly worse. I think we are being taken almost unaware of the second wave. I think we are relaxed that in COVID, we are through it. They didn't think about the second wave.
Yeah.
He has to deal with that. And in dealing with that, he has to deal with graft. When people deal with graft, they talk too much about counties. They forget that graft is elsewhere also, in national institutions, in the ministries. I guess we must have roped in the private sector, because you don't steal unless you're using your company, which is anchored in the private sector.
Yeah.
I think it is a big issue, and around that, as I conclude, around that, the thing to think about most is, why is it? How could it be that we lost funds in COVID, in KEMSA and in other places, when right at the beginning in February, people were saying, these funds that we've been seeking are all going to be stolen. The president said, let us get into it. He'll make sure no shilling is stolen. How much impunity do Kenyans have to go ahead, despite these problems that we've got, despite the deaths, despite the desperation and suffering, who actually, literally, graft is a polite word, steal, theft, steal money. In proportions that are completely unprecedented, not only in Kenya, but even by global standards. What we are stealing now is no longer a piece of change.
Okay.
The other thing we talked about, Kazi Mtaani, that Mheshimiwa Makali talked about at the beginning, which is one of the ways of stimulus in the economy, to get people to earn their incomes and begin reviving our economy at that level. Unfortunately, it was quite limited in scope. It went mostly to urban areas. I think the assumption was that, and which is probably true, that the urban poor are in a worse off situation than the rural poor, because they don't have fallback options and so on. So that was quite limited. In fact, it wasn't even done in a transparent way. It wasn't large enough. But I mean, that's the direction it should go. Try and bring incomes back to the households at that level. For the corporates, did I read somewhere, in fact, that, or did I hear the secretary the CS Treasury, say that they're going to go back to the previous levels of taxation.
Right.
They're going to go back to the previous levels of, say, VAT from 14 back to 16.
Yeah.
And corporate tax remission from 25 back to 30. I don't know if that's the direction to go.
Okay.
Economists will tell you that sometimes people believe that a shilling, perhaps in the private sector, has a greater multiplier effect than a shilling in the public sector.
Okay.
And especially in Kenya, where the leakage is very high, the shilling that goes to government, 50% of it, perhaps more, may be stolen.
Okay.
And when it's stolen, it's not used in the ways that will be able to support the economy as had been.
All right. Okay. Well.
Expected.
Okay.
So I we should do a little more. We should do a little more to stimulate the economy.
Yes, and I know we can talk much about the economy, but again, we'll not be able to expound more on that. We can only give our views, and as we hope that we are able to deal with the same. Sankok, let's talk matters health, and briefly, what your take would be. You are the one who said that it is, important that President Uhuru Kenyatta, speaks about his legacy, speaks about the Big Four agenda, universal healthcare today. When you wake up to our story, or when you wake up to information that is coming from the health ministry that we're not able to take care of the people right now as at the time of the pandemic, NHIF cannot cater for that, while Kenyans are always out there trying to pay for NHIF. What does it make you feel as a legislator?
Of course, Linda, you feel pathetic because we interact with our constituents every now and then. I interact with persons with disabilities. Some of them have gone down with COVID. Some of them, we have buried them. Some of them are still in hospitals, and they are being told to pay. They have been out of work. Mostly persons with disability depend on donations. Of course, we had to close our boundaries, so even those donations are not coming. Most of them depend on religious organizations. For instance, our only hospital for corrective surgery of person with disability that treat person with disability free of charge is Kijabi Mission Hospital. We had closed down for some time our religious institution, meaning there is no sadaka, there is no panda mbegu, so there will be no that ripple effect to the person with disability. So at the moment we really are down as well, and that is why we are asking the president, surely let us put our priority right. As Honorable Bunyasi have said, that we need to know which are the priority now. The priority is, first of all, to treat the lower cadre, because the upper cadre are treating themselves. Okay. The upper cadre are insured. Okay. Members of Parliament have a premium insurance, health insurance. They can access medical attention in any hospital within this country, and they can pay for it. They can pay from their own investment. But now we are going to the lower cadre. People who work today to eat in the evening. If you are working today so that you can eat in the evening, where will you get an extra coin to cater for your COVID-19? Okay. That is why for me, I will have preferred the president, first of all, to say how much will be injected into the health sector in our counties. Now that most of them are not even prepared. We were to have 300 bed capacity in every county. Have we attained that particular level? We were supposed to have PPEs, protective personal equipment, for health workers. Because the moment health workers are scared, the moment health workers are infected, the moment we have a number of health workers going down and they are buried, and they will be buried by a colleague from COVID-19, what will happen? They will be scared. And when the health sector is scared, we are finished as a country. Because who will be treating us? Who will be taking care of us?
Do you think that the health sector is scared as it stands? So what then should we do as a people?
Linda, from what you said about the issue of awarding tenders through the phone, and I'm sure the governance experts will agree with me that corruption is more of a governance issue than just a legal issue. And the truth of the matter is that the health sector is actually facing serious challenges in this country. And I agree with my colleague Zongok, because what is happening is when the person who is supposed to be saving lives also becomes threatened and is exposed, you would imagine that they are also human beings. No, there's nobody who would say, I'm ready to die. Everybody is scared of them. So you can imagine if you are the person expected to save us and then you are also scared, what happens? That's a crisis by itself. But I think basically, to me, the issue is, as Kenyans, we need to address the integrity issues of our own values and issues of our own ethics, ethnos, and all those things. So that at the end of the day, I've looked at the BBI and they are very good proposals, written proposals.
Yeah.
I think the challenge we face in this country is the implementation of some of our good proposals. We really, when it comes to implementation, we are all facing a challenge. And I wish there is a way we could come up with that formula to unlock the issue of implementation.
Yeah.
So that what we put on paper, which is a very good proposal,
right,
gets implemented.
Okay.
To me, if we go that way, then we'll be helping this country and we'll be able to reduce corruption to a level which can allow the economy to grow. Now, where we are, Linda, we like it or not, with those levels of corruption, this economy will have to struggle for many, many years. And I like what my colleague Bunyas was saying, who is also an economist like me. The issue is now we need to think of those, you can't address an abnormal situation with the normal proposals.
Okay.
We need those unique proposals which will address this abnormal situation for now. And once we level the whole process, then we can start thinking about our normal things. Because there are so many good things being said. When it comes to implementation, we are facing challenges. At times, it's not challenges of our own making, because when you say you want to spend $1 trillion on a matter or on a program, and then you end up only leasing half of that money through your own revenue generation, you have no choice but to defer that program or stagger it. You can have a phased-out approach to implementation. And to me, I think these are the challenges Kenyans are facing. We are saying as a country, we need now to think outside the box and start coming with the proposals which very quickly can actually stimulate growth, very quickly can enable our factories and industries to start manufacturing, so that we open opportunities for employment, we open opportunities for even those who are in the logistics sector to start moving goods. That's how you grow an economy. And once you're out of the woods, then we can quickly get back to normal.
Just a minute.
Make it brief, Mheshimiwa, so we can have
the president, if today, God forbid, he gets COVID-19, he have an insurance.
Yes.
He will be able to pay for his treatment.
Okay.
And the person treating him will not be able to treat for his own treatment. He will not be able to pay for his own treatment.
Yeah.
So I want the president to tell us, where are we in the health insurance for health workers? Where are we?
We have members of parliament on board CEMERA. I'd want to assume and not to ignore or acknowledge your position in the society, but I'd want to say that you and I are the ones who represent Wanjiku today on this particular panel. What does it make you feel when you hear that the members of the parliament, the people we elected to, speak on behalf of us, equally crying foul on how we've handled the education sector in the country, acknowledging the fact that so much money is normally pumped on the health sector, yet we still do not see much of gains?
What it makes me feel is no surprise, because long from about 2013, the parliament surrendered its authority more or less to the Jubilee executive. I don't have to go into specific incidents, but that is my interpretation. Majorly, Parliament surrendered its authority to the executive. Whatever the executive wants, that's what the executive gets. So I sympathize with those ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure there are many there who mean well, but what can they do? They either collectively or decided to do that, or have been coerced, or they were in such a vulnerable position, each one of them, that it was very easy to coerce them into just surrendering and saying, okay, whatever you want. So it doesn't surprise me when I hear several of them complaining and appearing like as MPs, there's nothing they can do. And that may well actually be the reality. That even if they had something in their minds that they wish to do, they know that the brokenness of our political system makes it impossible for them to do anything, where they have found themselves in terms of what they have bargained for, what they have considered as important for themselves, what they have rallied around vis-a-vis the needs of the ordinary citizens, makes it a bit difficult for them to wiggle out of that position and take aside from the executive and say, we are going to defend the needs and aspirations of Wanjiku. So no surprises there.
Okay.
If I can quickly latch on to something that Mheshimiwa Mulu says, which really excited my mind when he said it. There's a lot more than just discussing practical things. And one of the things I've heard him say is how we need to think about the value system. This nation is not going to change, in my humble opinion, because we change the constitution, because we change laws, because we come up with this procedure or regulation and so on and so forth. We have a much deeper problem that requires a change in the value system of this nation, a change in our national character, a change, a manifestation of our true national identity, so that we can begin to reimagine ourselves as a nation. Then we begin to resolve the problems that face us. I don't refuse that, even as we struggle with that, we have to apply practical solutions to the problems that face us to the best way possible. But I look at Parliament just now, I do not see any possibility that the Parliament in its current formation can do anything that can change other than perhaps immersing itself in the dream of reimagining Kenya, so that we together do something radical for the future. For the present is just patching up. I wouldn't begrudge those MPs. I sort of see the position they are in. They will just be part of this patching up that we have to keep doing and hope that we survive to see the next.
We cannot be very comfortable in this particular note, sincerely speaking. And coming to you, Bunyasi, I mean, sincerely speaking, when you hear Simeha speak, really, it is technically, painting a picture of what is there on ground, that, the people have gotten to that point where they say, after all, there's really nothing much we can do. After all, our members of parliament cannot do much. Really, is that a healthy trajectory to make? And if it is not, then what do we do to face ourselves from that particular slot to a different point where we're going to objectively discuss the issues that affect us, bedevil us, and seek answers from the leadership that we elect?
Thank you very much. I have a lot of sympathy with what Mr. Simeha has said. But just to link with that, I'll comment on that. I want to come to where Honorable Sankok has been repeating several times, and he's made a very, very important observation. He's kept talking about how to deal with the weak in society, how to move protection, to worry in terms of protection, worry more about the people with low income and so on. Forget a bit about the upper class, MPs included, because they have sufficient income to try and find how to choose which of the best hospital, rather than just go to get any facility at all. And that, I think, needs to be a theme that runs through our thinking as Kenyans, because recent economic surveys did show that the poverty levels had deepened. It varies from county to county as well as national average. In Busia, for example, the level below the poverty line was 69.9, almost 70% of the people live below the poverty line. And I'm sure if you've got data just above the poverty line, the rest might just be a little above the poverty line, except very few. And probably it's the story in the rest of Kenya. So Honorable Sankok has a very important point on which the president is also to be reflecting on. And even in the proposals of governance to show that we are a republic that cares and so on, not a republic that only worries about the elites and run the risk of elite capture. Let me go back to Mr. Simeha's point. It's been a long time since Kenya was enthralled in any way with ideals. That ideals have been thrown out, I think, a long time ago. Even as we talk today, we don't, for example, do not have an ideology. An ideology is something that how you derive where you want to go as a society and say this is our means of getting there. I know that the president initially came in with Agenda 4, revised their vision into Agenda 4, but in so doing we forgot now about Vision 2030 and others, where the longer term thinking would have given us that ideal. And it's really important for Kenya to think about that. Now the other thing is on the issue of maadili, the issue of values. One way, a practical way, I think, first I agree that that's a very important observation by my colleague, but I think one way of starting off is to try and fight impunity, because the value systems are lost because people can get away with shortcuts that are usually, in fact, in many cases, not just against whether the moral things or whether it's wrong or right, but even against the law, the basic things of the law, and they're getting away with it. You can take billions out of NYS 1, NYS 2, and nothing will happen. KEMSA, we shall talk about it, and it will just die. The water sector, corruption, we'll talk about it. There are too many things SGR, and the rest of the things that even ordinary citizens can see that are not going right and nothing is being done. So people have discarded value systems. People say, oh, you want to do that? You go die poor. Here's a shorter way of doing it, and so on. And I think that's something that can be tackled in a practical way as we allow our citizens, we allow our higher institutions also. Universities have been gagged. Let's allow them to dream. You can't have universities have, and this is important for value systems and for thinking, for ideal thinking, that's why I brought it in. You can't have universities with a curriculum-based approach like you do in high schools. Universities have, many people are supposed to go, rather, university is a place you go to read and to study. Then you can begin to dream and think. The youth will innovate in ideas, in science and so on. We are gagging them, we are funding them like we fund high schools. That's, I think, not a good thing. So we don't get a new wave of thinking, a new wave of ideas from our youth who are a large part of our society. We are stuck up in some corner of how to become not only millionaires, how to become billionaires in a short space of time. Actually, it's very sad.
All right. And we have feedback here. JM says, good morning. Thank you, TV47, for bringing our leaders so they can speak for us or on our behalf. But we have a problem in the country in the sense that we always like shifting blame and responsibility. The president cannot be able to address everything for this nation, and that is why we have other elected members to assist the president. But what I'm hearing here is that we only have brains that, yes, indeed, are in existence, but we do not have ideas on what we really can do about the problems that we are facing right now. Honorable Mulu, I'll allow you to respond to that, even as you bring in the aspect of BBI. And maybe in his own wisdom and the wisdom of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta termed it necessary to come with this document, that is the BBI, to try and address some of these issues that, you know, continue to bedevil us as a country. But again, we still have dissenting voices that are cropping up in regards to how the document has been crafted.
Okay, thank you. I think listen to that, listen and what he has said. You know, Linda, the reason why you find in Parliament we have political parties and we have political groupings is basically because anytime we go for campaigns, everybody wants to form a government. And whoever wins is what person who forms the government. So once you're given the mandate by Kenyans to form a government, the role of implementation is squarely on you.
On you, okay.
So even some of us, when we talk, is that we have the ideas, but the implementation bit of it is not on our side.
Okay.
If Wiper, where I belong to, formed the government, I will now be an integral part of that government. And the ideas which I have, I will now be able to talk to my party and tell him, since we promised Kenyans this, I think if we implement this. So
are you not exacting enough pressure? Because then, after all, that is why we have you there.
I think when we speak here and when we give our ideas, we are doing exactly that.
Okay.
Because I'm imagining somebody in the government must be listening and picking these good ideas, and if they could implement them from their side, then basically, like when Smeka talks about value system,
yes,
this is something you start even at the primary level, which means we need to think about our curriculum, change it, and move on. But you know, the person who has that mandate now to do that, the person who has the instruments of power is the ruling party now. And that's why we are saying, when we talk here as members of parliament, we are giving those ideas, but implementation square is on somebody else. And that's why we are saying, we will continue bringing out these good ideas which we are bringing on this program, and which will be brought up in other stations, so that people can teach them out and say this is good, we can try to implement. So it's not that everybody has the capacity to implement. Some of us have the capacity to bring out the issues. But now on the issue of the BBI, let's start from this point. BBI is not 100% what I would say good. There are some elements which need improvement. And I think as a Kenyan, and I've told my people to read because at some point I will be engaging them. As a Kenyan, what I would be looking for, I want to come up with a checklist. Checklist of what I think is good and checklist of what I think is bad. And my work will be to tick. If I find that I think this is good, if the good things are almost 70% compared to what is not go 80%, then in general what it says is, now we focus on those which we are saying they are not good. And I think Kenyans have started coming up saying, for example, anytime you listen to our the ladies in this country, they are saying the truth that matter, even though it's there on paper. But when you look at what has happened now, for example, where you are taking women from Parliament, National Assembly to Senate, which the way it is now currently being proposed seems to be a weak house, then you are not actually assisting ladies. When my friend here talks about issues of disability issues, being marginalized, we are saying it might not be perfect, but then they will bring up their proposals on the table, and people will have to consider what is it that they are missing for them to feel like they belong to this country and they're included. And to me, I think now if we could just pick those issues which you think are not really good or which you think are causing dissatisfaction to some Kenyans and put them on the table and agree how can we address them. For example, where I come from, Kitui, we had proposed that we need an additional county called Mwingi County. Basically because Kitui is so huge. It's a 30,400 square kilometer. While some counties are not even 500 square kilometer. And we are saying, if you really want us to feel like we are also included and we are getting effective services, then we would wish that we go to Mwingi County. It is not there, but we put it on the table. If it can be accommodated, we'll be happy.
All right, that's an interesting one.
We can discuss. So, so I'm saying there are a number of groups, Linda, who are saying there are issues which might be not really good for them. But to me, let's look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is we want to unify this country and everybody to feel like I belong to Kenya, so that we don't have those Kenyans and other Kenyans. We are all Kenyans, because not unless we feel like we are all Kenyans, we can now start approaching this from a common kind of front. Otherwise, for me, BBI is a document we are all reading. It has a lot of good proposals. At the same time, there are proposals which need to be improved. And I think let everybody bring on what needs to be improved. And we see what is doable, what is not doable. And we can agree, we can't do this today, but we can do this in another 2 years, 3 years, so that at the end of the day, everybody feels accommodated. To me, that would be my short.
Okay, well, the DP himself has constantly said that, there needs to be that conversation that is inclusive, robust towards, changing what is incorporated in the BBI for the better. Still come back to you.
Yes,
on the BBI. And Simeha, be on standby because you'll be the person to defend this particular document.
And even before I go to BBI, I know my president may be watching. And if he's not watching, his people are watching.
Yes. Sorry.
I will advise him.
It's okay. We'll fix that.
Go on.
It's all right,
I'll sort it for
you. Advise him.
Yes.
Not.
Continue.
It is okay?
I will advise him.
Just close it. It's okay. You're right. Keep talking.
Yes, I will
keep talking.
Advise my president.
Yes.
Not to talk about BBI before he tells us where we are.
Right.
In terms of health insurance cover for our health workers. Because we cannot afford them being threatened and being not protected and feeling inferior in terms of accessing the same health that they are offering to Kenyans. But coming to BBI, surely, is that part of the priority in an abnormal year like this one? I expect my president to tell us what is so urgent in BBI that supersede the urgency of saving lives of Kenyans, of protecting Kenyans, and of economic recovery post-COVID-19. But when it comes to BBI, because I know the expert will be defending, is that as pastoralists, it was not too much to ask for a livestock marketing authority.
But were you not excited just the other day?
Because we are marketing tea, we are marketing coffee on behalf of other people from this country. We are not lesser citizens. We are not shifters in this country. We also need our livelihood to be marketed by the same government. We also need a guaranteed minimum returns on our livestock and livestock byproduct. We also said that we need TGRC, Acumi report, and Dungu land report implemented, because some of the land, if you acquired land, like now, if I go to Kitui, where my friend come from, and I acquire land, and there was a process, genuine process of acquiring that land, I bought that land. But if you have thousands and thousands of acres that we cannot prove that you acquired in either buying manner or in whichever manner, and you are not a resident of that particular county, you have to tell us how did you get it. So we also wanted that one to be implemented. We also needed the issue of the revenue allocation formula, because there are two parameters that define a country. That is landmass, territory, and tyranny of numbers, that is population. Now we use tyranny of number to elect our leaders. We also need to use the landmass to allocate resources. Furthermore, we don't allocate resources, government resources, to individual. Individual investment is an individual responsibility. You don't dish out money like hotcakes. What you do is that you invest on hospitals, you invest on schools, you invest on roads, you invest on SGR. SGR is not built on people's heads. It is built on land. So government resources should be allocated in terms of 1 kilometer, 1 shilling. That is what we are asking as pastoralists. And I believe my president will come and tell us that because Raila said that they can be added, so that they can, if it was added, because for us pastoralists, those are our irreducible minimum. And when we come to irreducible, we cannot bargain.
Now listen to this hard stance. And Simeha, before I come to you, let's just allow Sapor say something in regards to the BBI. We are having hard stance and every other group coming with irreducible minimums, saying that this has to be incorporated or we render the document useless. Sincerely speaking, if at all we have to have any progressive conversation in regards to the BBI, is this the direction to take?
First of all, thanks a lot. I don't think the direction to take, and I have strong considered views on this one. I think the only domain for BBI is governance. How we want the country to be led in ways that, by nature of its structured function, are inclusive of all corners of the republic. Any suggestions on economic initiatives and so on are misplaced. Those things come out annually in how we do our budgets, how we do our medium-term plans, and they will change. In fact, we are wasting time thinking that we need this in there, need this in there, even though what Mheshimiwa Sabuk, for example, is saying as a deeper question of the ideals for this country. How you make, how you unify the territory, how you make people feel the comfort that you are included. But in terms of what exactly you do to include them, administrations will keep changing this every budget year. That's budgets are important because they're the ones that implement those policies. My thinking is on this. It's like we have a major tournament, and now we are reaching the finals, which will be played in one big stadium. But we're still allowing small games in unregistered stadia being done, so you don't know who is playing what game where. And I think it simply means that the proposals that are in BBI cannot be a finality the way they are. I think there is sufficient opinion that now that we have seen it in writing, we should allow people to sort of polish it or reject it sometimes and say, if this way we want to go, it shouldn't go this way. I think that we should be, we should allow for that to happen. Now, the question that came from your listener, which I thought was really fascinating, I confront it every day. The listener is saying, why are these guys blaming the president? You know, your own leaders, why don't you do these things? And Mheshimiwa Makali Mula has explained who does what and so on, these roles. It's very frustrating. Why? Because that person doesn't realize that when you go to elections and there is a manifesto of a party and the party wins, they need to implement that in a way that impacts. If you're not impacted, then you're left out. And certainly at the minimum, they should do it in the way they promised to do. And the only person who has that, the only entity which has got that mandate is the executive. And Parliament had enabling environment through legislation, including budget legislation. But with open ideas. And so people tend to disengage. When there are problems, they don't think about the person who is in charge. So they go to elections, throwing out everything that really matters to an election. Now worry about the individuals. We'll talk about Uhuru as candidate, for example, or Raila as an aspiring candidate, or Kalonzo or Musalia. No, instead of what is it that we want to see, what Kenya we want to see. I think we must say clearly and firmly that that kind of thinking is what has led us into trouble. People have gotten out of their responsibility. They should hold leaders to account in respect of the mandate they have got. So I think there is a slight problem there. And then, sorry, this one I must say, is Parliament able to oversight government? I must say that Parliament's ability to oversight government in ways that will make a difference has been largely reduced. And we must face up to that reality.
That is within the Constitution, or what makes you say so?
Yeah, what has happened is that people seem to think that if you belong to a political party and the government of the day is in your party, you must praise and you must agree with everything they bring. So we're evaluating what they bring and saying, we are in this party, for example, we promised Wananchi that we'll go this direction, that we'll worry about Wanjiku. that will not leave them behind. And you are not proposing that, so we don't agree with you, even though we are in your party. It's not that if you raise a question, then you must be a bad person. For example, what happened in the recent meeting, diversion. If you ever raised anything critical about BBI, even a critique, not a rejection, you are not invited because you are not pro. See, it's a naive way. And in Parliament, if we allow this to happen, we are going to be completely, Parliament will be reduced to a rubber stamping house. That's a reality that we should also now confront. And we should not duck that in any way.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Simeha, you've had it right there. And this, I would want us to have a conversation revolving around the BBI and the approach and the kind of bravado that we are seeing today. Last week, we had the same conversation. And you said, at some point in time, it gets to that point where you say, if you are coming with bravado, if you're coming with the reducible minimums, we have no choice but to overlook what it is that you're saying. Let me read 2 tweets of the DP. He says it is wrong to reduce constitution repair process in BBI or to Uhuru Raila affair. It is ours collectively. We are either all in or all concerned. We must build bridges to the church, pastoralist communities, devolved units, executive and legislature, whichever way, and others to achieve consensus. No walls, please. He says again, the concern of our spiritual leaders on BBI are merited. No doors should be shut. No walls should be built to shut our better ideas. No group left behind. We must continue to build only bridges towards a consensus. Women and PWDs must be heard. It is the least a caring nation does. Pamoja. Simeha.
Okay, first let me start by just really thanking Mheshimiwa Bunyasi. What I said, I found it fantastic. In terms of just analyzing the realities of the politics of this country as part of the problem that the BBI process seeks to solve, such that the way now we handle what should be part of a solution, we begin to see manifestations of our problem as a nation. So that even when it comes to the consensus building that Mheshimiwa William Ruto is talking about, I find it completely insincere. I am happy that he's cheering the concerns and contributions of other stakeholders like pastoralists, people with disability, women, and governance, because those people willingly participated and they rightfully demand to see that what the concerns they brought up are properly captured. He willingly refused to participate, castigated this process, dismissed it, and encouraged people not to participate. So that's where normally I put a difference. I'm very happy to see people like Honorable Sankok, who participated, like Honorable Mulu, who participated, and others in their individual capacity and in their institutions, when they come in and say, hold on a minute, you have not properly captured these concerns. But people who dismissed, rubbished, insulted, but now they are standing on the tallest pedestal and shouting how this is not inclusive. I think that is insincere. But I'm happy that they defend the right of those who have seen some hope in this process and demand that they want to make it better. Secondly, Linda, is just to say that it's not the last stop. It is work in progress. Yes, we want to work on our nation. This should never be looked at as the last stop. This should be looked at as and taken forward as a courageous step. In spite of the hurdles we have in the character of the politics of our nation, which at every point will try to stop it, will try to undermine it, people will try to use it for their own personal or political interests, but it is some step towards a progress of nation building, which is a very treacherous process. Thirdly, there is too much of emphasis on secondary issues. This is why Mheshimiwa Bunyasi said, thank you very much. There is a lot of emphasis on secondary issues. Things that are dealt with through administrative policy and annual development plans and so on and so forth. We need to think deeper in terms of philosophy. We should not even be stuck and imprisoned by this recommendation for constitutional change. They are a tiny aspect of the BBI proposals for the reforms. We should look at things, for example, one fundamental thing that Mheshimiwa Mulu talked about, our education system. What role is it playing in our development? Do we have a philosophy behind our education system? I dare say no. It's one of the things we need to think about. Do we, our history and heritage, our national identity, the foundation of our society. Before we talk about how to govern, what kind of society do we want to govern? So there are those things, and they're mostly contained in the policy and administrative proposals, but they have been given a blackout. In fact, to an extent, for example, that Mheshimiwa Songok thinks that the Ndumu report and the historical justice report, historical injustices report are not in this report, but they are. Actually, there is an entire section on implementation of instruments that are already passed but have been ignored.
Okay.
So I think we just need to stop for a moment. I know it will be difficult to stop the politics, the practicalities of our politics interfering. But if only we could stop for a moment and say, look, how best do we make of this opportunity? And it's also unfair on the other side, Linda, just finally, for those who purport to say that this BBI process will solve every problem. That's also, to me, a lie.
That's a lie.
It is not perfect. It will not solve every problem that Kenya has. When we appear sometimes to say that you either agree with everything in it or you are not part of it.
But with all its imperfections, the question then today is, do we have a conversation revolving around the same so we can make amendments, or we go with it as it is?
As I've told you, Linda, first of all, it's not the last stop.
Okay.
So if you want
that we can bank on?
If you want to put it in there, including Mulu's extra county, you'll find a lot of us who are saying that we also think there are too many counties. Okay. They should actually have been fewer. So we say, let the conversation stop somewhere. Let us get some foundation, because it is the beginning of a conversation. Let us put this in place as a foundation for an ongoing conversation for making or building a perfect nation. Let us not behave as if everything ends here. So in my opinion, it shouldn't be an endless conversation, at least for this stage. We must stop somewhere, publish the bill for constitutional amendment, but continue robust conversations on issues that have been raised by Honorable Bunyasi and Honorable Mulu on values, education system, the future of this country, and so on and so on.
Okay. Well, incredible, gentlemen. Are we in agreement that we can leave the BBI issue as it stands?
Of course, no.
Oh, yeah?
In fact, he is totally insincere, completely.
Okay.
Because there is no way you can withdraw or take back the gains that were gained by person with disability in line with Article 54 of our Constitution, in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, where Kenya ratified in 2008, and in line with the Persons with Disability Act of 2003, Session Paper number 14, and purport that we can now continue the conversation. From where? We cannot stop the conversation because persons with disability gains must be guarded and probably added or enhanced. I appeared twice. One as a pastoralist leader and as a person with disability leader. And with person with disability, we said that let person with disability not be nominated, but let us have an electoral college like that one that is in Uganda, so that person with disability can elect their own representative for the sake of them being loyal to those who elected them. Because today, I don't know whether I'm loyal to my party Jubilee or person with disability whom I represent in the National Assembly. Sometimes I'm Natishiwa, na Jubilee, because I'm just a nominated member.
You're part of the Basel of Boy.
So you see, we cannot stop, and they are totally insincere because most of these things are not captured at all. When I talk of TGRC report, the implementation, the time frame, when can we implement it? It is not there. It is not appearing, and those are the things that pastoralists gave. Those are the things that persons who appeared in Narok Stadium gave to the steering committee, that this is what we need to address. They did not capture any statement
but don't
from
you
the
agree
persons.
that we cannot have all the views captured in...
I know all the views cannot be captured, but if then I appeared as a person, you do not even capture a statement or even a comma from our presentation. You did not capture from the pastoralists. 80% of the landmass is the hand of pastoralists. You did not capture anything from that pastoralist group. 80% of the landmass of Kenya, and you purport that you want to bring Kenya together. No.
We have all these concerns that he's raising in the 2010 Constitution today. They have probably not been implemented to the latter as expected. So Kenyans are confused. Are we trying to change the BBI to be the Constitution? Are we trying to amend the Constitution? I mean, just what is happening, right? I think people need to be clear on this.
I think, Linda, there's something called context. we need to contextualize this debate. We must look at what is the genesis of BBI. What is the genesis? And what were the objectives of the handshake and all that?
Yeah.
We had a 9-point kind of agenda, terms of reference for this team. And to me, the way I look at it is that if you look at the last pages, almost about 26 pages, there's a list of who was consulted.
Right.
Who made contribution to this team. And from where I sit, I've done a lot of research. And I can tell you for sure, looking at that listing alone, this was a very consultative process. And the only thing we are saying is, the question I'm asking myself is, was it possible to capture all the issues in that 25 document or 26 document?
Okay, well,
The others, most of them are annexes anyway. So if you look at it, it's about 26 pages.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, I think as we are consulting, and this consultation is important, these comments coming from every team are important. To me, I think what we should agree is, all these things have been raised by different groups that there is gaps. These gaps, some might be taken on board now, others might not be taken on board today. But then we have a time schedule on when are they likely to be taken. Because these are issues of concern to Kenyans. But you know, when we say that, for example, we want everything in it, there is no way the BBI report can be an amendment to our constitution. We have a 2010 constitution which was passed by Kenyans. And we are only looking at areas where we think, in terms of governance, in terms of our economy, in terms of our social life, that we are facing challenges in terms of moving forward. For example, the unit of this country is very important.
Right.
And when you look at the constitution, it says the presidency is actually the symbol of national unity. So we are looking at a situation where anytime you elect a president and then that becomes a symbol of disunity, that should concern Kenyans. Because I imagine when I elect my president and he assumes office of the presidency, irrespective of whether I voted for him or not, that becomes my president. And I would want that office to be seen that way. So in a situation where we start seeing it differently, then every Kenyan should say, we need to look at why this, so that we maintain what we wished as Kenyans when we were doing the 2010 constitution. But generally, I can tell Kenyans for sure, we will not be able to take all the comments coming from every group, but some should be accommodated, like what he says about disability. In this country, I think we are about 5%.
Yes,
population.
15%.
Now, if it's 15, I'm saying other than just the 15%, we can't also ignore. And I think it has been said very well. If you want to see how a country is doing well in terms of human rights issues, you look at how they treat the lower level people, the disabled, the marginalized, and to me that's the point we can't lose. That even as we think about BBI, let's carry everybody on board, more so the marginalized groups.
Right.
That is important for me.
That is crucial.
Yes.
Bunyasi Sakwe.
Linda. You know, the specific goals of BBI have been evolving. When we began, we wanted to get demonstrations off the street. We wanted to bring peace, so that with the peace dividend, we can focus on things that matter for Wanjiku and for others. Two, in that process also, we were told that one of the challenges to national unity is the sort of skewed, biased way in which resources are allocated, and so on. And you remember the president has been talking about the difficulty of implementing his agenda because of, say, things like the wage bill, a top-heavy government, for example. Thirdly, people have been complaining about the winner-take-all. I want to comment now on those two things very quickly. In respect of whether resources will be available, can be made available to cater for areas that felt left out, whichever those areas might be, the proposals that are coming out need to respond to the people and say, this is how we have done it. People are auditing it, and they are saying, and because they are auditing it, you should allow them to express their audit views. They are saying, but you've come up with an outcome that seems going to be top-heavy. It's not resolving the problem that we started out with, which was reducing the cost of government, liberate resources to develop the rest of this big nation of Kenya. The second one is winner take all. The people are saying, you need this thing saying, when the president, as defined in the current constitution, wins, he and his party take everything, and others are left out. So people are auditing to say, so now how is it going to be? Now, the solution that they have brought is a presidency in a particular party, a prime minister in that party, and several deputies. When you appoint people, individuals, as ministers, super ministers, you're not taking care of their community. I would have thought that the winner not take all would have meant that the rules of allocation of resources would be so changed so that even those that voted in the opposition, even those that are 1,000 miles away from Nairobi are still going to be included. We have not touched that aspect. Let us agree, and Dr. Makali Mulu has worked on this a lot of his life, that the way we deal with the budget in Parliament will not break it down to be able to fill that requirement. So we have not resolved it. So for those reasons, this auditing need, we must allow people to express views as in their own mind as they audit the process. You can't block that. And when they audit, they will tell you what is missing, they will tell you what is off mark, and so on. I think that's how we should do it as a society. We can't play this game in a corner. If we do, and we pass it, after the next election, we shall be back on the streets, crying foul and wanting the changes to be made yet again in the Constitution.
All right.
And we're not even implemented fully. So there are a lot of issues around that.
Okay, well, as we get to wind up, Simehar, I mean, looking at the kind of talk that we've had this morning and generally what has been ongoing, what do you suppose then would be the fate of the BBI, even as you respond to Honorable Sankok?
Let me first of all share some of, admit based on some privileged information. I don't know if this may or may not surprise you, that the steering committee of the BBI may even have the same complaint as what Honorable Song is saying with regards to personalists and people with disability. And I maybe also let me mention, and also with the Honorable Sakwa, with regards to issues of resource distribution. Basically, let's call it shared prosperity along with the BBI. I see, because even as we make this attempt to reimagine and remake our nation, there are people in this country, my dear friends, who still want to hold us back. And they use every opportunity, and a lot of the time these people are not seen. Your information is not the politicians insulting each other on the public stage or on Twitter and so on. A lot of these guys are unseen, and they want to use every opportunity to undermine any chance of us building a better Kenya.
Okay.
And it surprised me, even me, I want to make this confession. It surprised me when I looked at this when it came out, and I'm like, what happened to the issues we discussed about personalists? What happened to what we discussed about people with disability? But anyhow, the good thing is that I am aware that there's some attention being paid to that quietly. Okay. It doesn't have to be spoken about on the public stage. The part that I'm rejecting, and this is personal, this is not steering committee, I don't speak for them. The part that I'm rejecting is using political grandstanding to want political point scoring in this process. Yes, I can't begrudge them. They will do that because they're used to doing that. But I think for those who are in charge of the process, they should completely ignore that political grandstanding and scoring, keep quiet, and listen to the concerns people are raising, including pastoralists, including women, including people who are, like myself actually, who are intimately concerned about devolution, including this allocation in this country, and do something about it, so that when the bill is published finally, whether it's tomorrow or Monday, the nation can see that even though there were no public responses, the team responsible was listening.
All right.
But it's a difficult country, especially in terms of the political context, that you attempt to do your best, but there are people both visible and invisible trying to different directions to score points for themselves. Just have that in mind when we are discussing the BBI. I'm just sure that incidentally, I personally share his concern, and I know that there are members of the steering committee who share that concern, but they will just not go public and talk about it.
Well, gentlemen, the conversation continues. We have to wind up. We're extremely out of time. Honorable Sankok, extremely out of time.
Let us address some issues.
30 seconds.
Yes. Because they say that the DP Ruto did not appear.
Yes.
How did Joseph want DP Ruto to appear?
Okay.
We believed that Uhuru and Ruto are the presidency, and Uhuru carried the aspiration of Jubilee.
Okay.
At the same time, appeared as a pastoral leader, appeared as a person with disability leader. In which group did he want the DP Ruto to appear personally to the steering committee? Did they invite him and he refused to come? So let us not have this political gankering and shenanigans of trying to gang certain leader when they give their own views? Why don't we gang Raila Odinga when they give their own view? Why don't you gang Uhuru when they give their own views? We all are also entitled to our own views.
I can almost guarantee you that we're going to have this conversation again with the same panel. Gentlemen, allow me to wind it up at this point because we have to go to another session altogether. And I've personally loved for us to expound it some more, but all the same we say thank you so much. Honorable David Sankok, Member of Parliament or nominated Member of Parliament for Persons with Special Interest. It was great having you this morning. Joseph Simeha, governance expert, asante sana for the great